The committee could come to order, and thank the members for being here. Today, as we promised, we are continuing our inquiry into ensuring that federal prosecutors meet their obligations. And these are obligations, I look at this, whether the defendant is a prominent official or an indigent defendant. Either way, prosecutors have certain obligations that should always be followed. Now, we've seen the results of two separate investigations, two reports that went wrong during the Ted Stevens trial. And I thank Attorney General Holder for making the report of the Department of Justice's internal Office of Professional Responsibility available to us, something we normally is not, and we've now made it available to the public. The investigation by the Justice Department found that several career prosecutors acted with reckless disregard of their discovery obligations, and the deputy chief of the Public Integrity Section exercised poor judgment in failing to supervise discovery. While the department's OPR investigation did not find intentional misconduct, its findings are serious, they are significant, they result in the suspension of two of the prosecutors. Everybody knows that Ted Stevens was a friend of mine. But even if Ted Stevens is somebody I never knew, I'd be bringing this hearing because I believe that prosecutors bear unique responsibilities in maintaining the integrity of our criminal justice system. I'm looking at the senators who are here now, Senator Klobuchar, Senator Cornyn, have both been prosecutors. We all know that our constitutional framework provides that all individuals are guaranteed the right to fair treatment and fair trial. And without ensuring adherence to the rule of law and vigorous and competent counsel for defendants, we can't live up to these guarantees. We also have to remember that prosecutors have a unique position in our whole system. A unique thing. They wield so much power when it comes to charging decisions, plea bargaining, gathering of evidence, simply the power to bring or to withhold prosecution. Probably the most significant power in the whole criminal justice system. So we count on them to uphold the law, to adhere to the highest ethical standards and seek justice. That's justice for everybody involved. Their standards are different than that of defense attorneys. And what happened in the Stevens case undermines this system. It can't be tolerated. Two separate investigations have now found that significant evidence was not disclosed to the defense, and critical mistakes were made throughout the course of the trial that denied Senator Stevens a fair opportunity to defend himself. Mistakes and poor decisions in connection with the Stevens case disturbed the judge hearing the case, but they disturbed the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. But I also know they disturbed the Department of Justice. Attorney General Holder did the right thing when he came into office, and based upon the review of the matter, decided to dismiss the indictment that had been brought against Senator Stevens, and he withdrew the case even after a jury's guilty verdict. Today we'll hear from Deputy Attorney General Jim Cole, the number 2 official, the Department of Justice, about the steps the department has taken and plans to take to ensure that federal prosecutors meet their discovery obligations. So the situation in the Stevens prosecution is never repeated. Never repeated, whether it's a Ted Smith or a Ted Stevens, whether it's somebody we've never heard of before or somebody we have. The standards should be the same. We want to ensure that prosecution supervisors are diligent as well. The recent mistrial declaring the prosecution of John Edwards raises concern about the exercise of prosecutorial judgment in that case. Now, I worry that when this happens, you can also end up with sometimes unfair, partisan criticism directed at the Justice Department, and that may make them reluctant to exercise restraint. Let's get things back on the balance we're supposed to be. Prosecutors make tough judgment calls all the time. By and large, they make the right ones. And they use their discretion in the interest of justice. Remember, that's the discretion both to bring prosecution or to withhold it. More than 70 years ago, while he was serving as Attorney General of the United States, Robert Jackson spoke about federal prosecutors, saying, "The prosecutor has more control over life, liberty, and reputation than any other person in America." As he spoke about the exercise of prosecutorial discretion, he wisely observed that federal prosecutors need to be diligent, strict, and vigorous in law enforcement, but also just. As a young prosecutor, I remember reading those words. I also made sure that every prosecutor in my office subsequently read those words. Now, I know how strongly Attorney General Holder and Deputy Attorney General Cole feel about these issues. I know they're committed to justice and to ensuring that federal prosecutors follow Attorney General Jackson's timeless advice that citizen safety lies in the prosecutor who tempers zeal with human kindness, who seeks truth and not victims, who serves the law and not factional purposes, and approaches his task with humility. When I talk about my time as a prosecutor in Vermont, it's because I'm proud of the dedicated public servants, the prosecutors and the law enforcement officers I had the privilege to serve with. Our criminal justice system is the envy of the world, in large measure because good prosecutors adhere to the directive to seek justice for all parties, the government and the defendants, not just convictions. So we have to ensure that federal prosecutors continue these high standards. Senator Grassley, did you want to